And that's in our hymnal, which we hide over there. But, you know, on occasion you might just stroll over there sometime and read some of the good words in the back, as well as some of the hymns. Oh, yeah, I forgot to designate. Callan, do you want to try? You can light the chalice for us, please. And remember, just hit that button on top. Modern technology. I'll read this. Drawn together. We come together. No, I guess it's we. So let's read it together. We come together every week, bound not by a creed or a mutual desire to please one God or many gods. We are drawn together by belief that how we are in the world, who we are together matters. We light this chalice together in the knowledge that love, not fear, can change this world. Yes. Okay, time to just stand up and say hello to your neighbors and think about the interdependence. Yeah, it's hard to ignore the interdependence value that we have. I'll read it. We honor the interdependent web of all existence with reverence for the great web of life, and with humility we acknowledge our place in it. We covenant to protect Earth and all beings from exploitation. We will create and nurture sustainable relationships of care and respect, mutuality and justice. We will work to repair harm and damaged relationships. You know, in another 40 years, that'll probably be doubled in size too. The first principle is in the first line, or the seventh principle that we had in our old covenant is there. Oh, I'm not responding. Okay, so now's the time to come up and briefly share your joy or concern. And okay, you're welcome. It looks like Callan's ready.
So, starting tomorrow, I'm going to do a lemonade stand so that I can afford the Nintendo Switch 2 to play Donkey Kong Bonanza. And before you say it's too expensive, you're right.
A stone of joy for Paula's service gathering yesterday. It's hard to feel joyful that we no longer have Paula, but it was a lovely time. And even though she said she didn't want any kind of service, her family felt they wanted it, and I really appreciated a chance to gather with people and say goodbye to her. She was right here yesterday. And many people, right, Bob? Right. Feel her all around us all the time. So it was lovely.
Okay, Mark, you're going to have to talk real slowly this time. No, there'll be time for questions afterwards. I'll add a concern. As someone who's been involved with redistricting issues for the last 3 years, I am very disheartened by what's happening in Texas and the response to that. It's somewhat unbelievable that people feel like they have the right to be unfair. In Wisconsin, at least they tried to keep it a secret before they unfolded it. But now in Texas, well, what can we say about Texas? There are people that are saying, yeah, this is what we can do. And we will do it. Abuse of power, I'm sorry to say. And here's the big rock for all those joys and concerns left unspoken. So I met Mark through going to some meetings recently. I think I've been going about a year. To Hope for Earth, and really appreciate this organization that is responding to something that is very hard to respond to, and that is addressing climate change. And now it's addressing how not to necessarily stop climate change, slow it down, and then to live with it. So that's the resiliency part. He's the co-director of the Hope for Earth, along with Lance Holden, or is it Mike Noreen?
There's a whole board.
And there's a whole board. Okay, all right. Well, I won't delay any longer. Come on up, Mark, and tell us about this new initiative.
All right, thank you. Can everybody hear me all right? Okay, we'll leave that as is, but if anything changes, just let me know. So as Don mentioned, my name is Mark Klapatch-Mathias, and I am with Hope for Earth. I'm currently on the board as the secretary. I'm also one of the chairs of the Earth Fest event, which I'll talk just very briefly about, and I'm currently leading the Climate Action and Resiliency Initiative. In addition to that, I serve as the sustainability coordinator at UW River Falls, so a lot of my campus and community work all just very much so aligns, and we recognize that if the campus is sustainable or the community is and not vice versa, that we won't actually have a successful community. So a lot of my work, again, does overlap with all of that effort. So the first thing I want to start with, just making sure I got things covered here, when I presenting classes on campus, I teach here and there. It's not my primary job. My primary job is advancing sustainability on campus through our operations, supporting sustainability inclusion in the curriculum, and then really getting it into our guiding documents. But I do teach here and there, and one of the classes that I teach, I start the semester with a question like this: I want to live in a world where, and it's a prompt that I ask students to respond to. And then throughout the semester, we learn about the different aspects of sustainability, and hopefully by the end, they have a broader understanding of sustainability. When most people hear the word sustainability, the default is that they think recycling and then the environment. Not bad things, very, very critical, but really recognizing how humans are impacting the environment and what's happening with the environment and climate change are also going to be impacting humans is a very critical response. So by the end of the semester, I start to get some responses like this, and I'll just read a few of them. I want to live in a world where walking, biking, and public transit are easy and accessible, where waste is minimized and reuse is a way of life, where biodiversity is valued and species are protected. On the reuse item, it's interesting that the UU's motto, or you might know if you're a UU member, if you use reduce, reuse, recycle, because there's a joke with sustainability coordinators that you might be a sustainability coordinator if it's really a lot more R's. There's reduce, reuse, recycle, refuse things in the first place, refurbish. There's a list of about 7. So for several years, I was on the College and University Recycling Coalition, and instead of being the Kirk, we said we should have been Kirk with so many R's. So a little background on Hope for Earth. I know Mike Noreen presented here a little over a year ago on Hope for Earth and our broader mission, so I'm not going to get into a lot of that today. I will summarize it by just saying we are a community group focusing on advancing sustainability in our community through many various forms. Hope for Earth started as Hope for Creation, so it originally started with a group of churches here in River Falls. Several of them have done a common reading of Pope Francis's encyclical Laudato Si on care for our common home, and that triggered more conversations about the roles that faith communities play in protecting our planet. So that ultimately grew into Hope for Creation, and then it just kind of kept growing from there. And a little over a year ago, we went through a major kind of revisioning process and ultimately rebranded as Hope for Earth to be a little bit more inclusive. And then also we became a registered 501c3, which opened us up to grants and a lot of other opportunities as well. So we have a few committees. We have our Connections Committee focusing on really how are we engaging other people throughout our community? How are we bringing them into our events? If we're the only ones doing things, it's not going to be successful. We have our Education Advocacy Committee, so that's a group really focused on educating our community and then also advocating for change at the various levels from individual up through systems. And that's the committee that Don is a part of as well. And then we have a communications committee that focuses on our newsletter and social media and getting all of our word out about all of our efforts. Our primary efforts are we do a sustainability speaker series through the public library. Those are often in person and live streamed. And then the recordings are available on the River Falls Public Library YouTube channel. So we have probably about 25 presentations from over the last few years that are recorded. You can go out there and watch those various topics. It originally started as a climate change series, which was great. That was actually the year of COVID, so all of them, I believe, ended up going online. We had Nobel Prize laureates. We had people that helped work on the IPCC reports and other environmental reports. So those recordings are out there, but we recognized that we were drawing in the same exact folks with the term a climate change series. So going into year 2 of it, we broadened that out to Sustainability Speaker Series, and we cover things that are environmental, the economic side of things, as well as the social sustainability side of things. So we've had topics around fast fashion, tree health, dark skies, and what that does to migratory birds, I mean, you name it, we've had a pretty wide topic list out there. And so we're currently working on this upcoming year's sustainability speaker series. It will not be at the public library because of the remodel and all of that work. So we're currently working on finalizing all of those details. This last year, we also revived the Green Skills Sampler that had last been done in 2017. So this is an event we had about 27 different topics that people could come in and rotate through 4 different sessions throughout the day, learning anything from intro to sourdough bread making, to bicycle repair, to fishing, to gardening, just a lot of topics around how people could be more sustainable in their daily lives. So that event looks like it's continuing as an annual event and will continue, we're thinking, the end of February in 2026. We offer some other community ed classes. The Connections Committee does an Advent walk every year. So again, having a large faith background, that was one of the events that was started really early on in Hope for Earth's history. So they're continuing an Advent walk. And then also Earth Fest is our largest event of the year. That came directly out of Hope for Earth. So before I get into the Climate Action and Resiliency Initiative, I want to just take a step back and really just provide some context for how we got to where we are now, where we determined that climate action and resiliency is a priority. So in 2019-2020, Hope for Earth did a series of events at the high school called Partnering for Our Sustainable Community. In November 2019, we had our first event, Partnering for Our Sustainable Community, a public conversation, and that involved having representatives from different organizations talk about how their organizations had been sustainable. So if we go way back to 2012, the university, the school district of River Falls, and the city of River Falls all signed a sustainability proclamation that said we are going to be part of an aspiring sustainable community. It kind of ended with that. There wasn't much more of like, what does that mean to be an aspiring sustainable community? So in 2019, we asked those 3 groups, and then we also added CVTC into the mix and asked them, what have they done as organizations to be more sustainable since 2012? In the case of the university, unfortunately, that meant they eliminated their entire sustainability department, and then there was an uproar, and then I got a part-time position, and now I'm in a full-time position, and we are back to hopefully advancing sustainability, with sustainability in our strategic and academic plans, as well as one of our current core values. So we really saw the full cycle swing from we were very supportive to it was cut, and now we're back to a decent point. And we also heard from CVTC, the city and the school district, about efforts that they were doing as well. After those presentations, we asked the broader community, what do you want to see for sustainability? Going back to what kind of world do you want to live in? What do you think we should be focusing on as a community? So we generated a whole list of ideas, and we kind of categorized those and grouped them. And then going into January 2020, we had another event. That one was specifically called Moving into Action, where we proposed 8 action teams listed up on the screen. And we had 150 community members join those different action teams and say, I'm going to work on this moving forward. And the intent was that they go out there and say, trees and gardens. They were going to figure out what are concerns in River Falls around trees and gardens. At that time, it would have been the start of Emerald Ash Borer for trees. And they would have gone out to figure out what are we concerned about and what are the types of things that we need to address moving forward. The grand plan, as it was that in April 2020, all of those groups were going to come back and present out to the community of what they've done since January, what they've initially identified as priority actions, and what is to come. Of course, the COVID-19 pandemic ruined all of that, and we were not able to continue a lot of that work. Hope for Earth continued to meet virtually during that time, but most of the action teams did not. So fast forward as we progressed through the pandemic, Hope for Earth continued to talk about how do we re-engage the broader community? How do we capture those 150 people and that energy of wanting to go out into our community and make some change? How do we re-engage those people in some of that work? And the idea of Earth Fest was born, a large community event that brings people together to celebrate sustainability, learn about sustainability, figure out what they can do moving forward. Of course, the city of River Falls, the chamber, the business leaders, there are a lot of community festivals in River Falls, but none that were necessarily really focused on sustainability. So we saw an opportunity there and decided to do an event around Earth Day every year. How many of you were at the first Earth Fest? A few of you. So it was a very, very, very cold and windy day, and we still had 1,000 people show up. which is incredible. So that response from the community told us that we were on the right track. We just had a meeting a few weeks ago, and we are starting to plan for next year's Earth Fest, which will be the 5th Earth Fest already, which is crazy to think about. But we continue to draw in large crowds. We've had about 2,500 people the last 2 Earth Fests at the University Center. That venue allows both some indoor and outdoor flexibilities, because we historically have not had very good weather for Earth Fest weekend. But ultimately, Earth Fest was a way where we could connect with people and start engaging them in that conversation. Kind of in tandem with Earth Fest, Hope for Earth started a Vote for Earth campaign. We are a nonpartisan group, so we cannot tell people who to vote for, but we encourage people to vote with the Earth in mind. What is doing damage to the planet? What are the types of things that we want to focus on? Things like that. So at the 2024 Earth Fest, we had this board pictured here where people could select one, well, ultimately they got 3 stickers, and they could put stickers on the 3 items of the 12 listed there that they wanted us to focus on. We did the same voting activity at Art on the Kinney, the Hope for Earth Social, and Meet River Falls that year. So the items listed there as the bullet points are the highest priority as our community identified to the lowest priority. Now, we came up with 12 random things that made sense to us at the time, some of which came from those action teams in 2019, 2020, but as with all of the things I will cover, none of this is an exhaustive list of things that people would like to focus on. But we see here that the number 1 item people wanted to focus on was reduce availability of single-use plastics, and the 4th item was adoption of a citywide climate action plan. So that was results of the 2024 survey. This last year, another opportunity presented itself to us, and it's the Met Council of Minnesota. So for the last 2 years, I've been working on a climate action and resiliency plan at the university. We've done a variety of stakeholder engagement opportunities. We've done visioning sessions, workshops. We've done multiple different surveys, drop-in sessions. We did 2 events through the public library this last year, connecting campus and community concerns. And ultimately, as of the end of spring semester, I had that plan approved through all 4 of our shared governance groups on campus. Now it's currently sitting with administration, and we've had multiple administration changes, so whether or not I can say we formally have a plan or not is to be determined. But ultimately, that work really helped us understand what does sustainability look like on campus and going forward. When we talk about climate action and resiliency, we're often talking about 2 levels of things. Climate action is kind of a broad, encompassing term of kind of any sustainability-related work. But one of the things that we really focus on is mitigation. How are we reducing our contribution to climate change through the reduction of fossil fuel use? And then the flip side of that, as Don mentioned, is adaptation and resiliency. How are we preparing for the future that we're going to experience going forward, regardless of what happens and how much we mitigate or don't mitigate? We're going to experience effects of that going forward. And I'll just throw out there, I just saw this morning pictures of the flooding at the Wisconsin State Fairgrounds last night, and they're closed today. So when people think these one-off weather events aren't a pattern, they absolutely are, and we are seeing more and more effects of climate change on a daily basis. So in my role with the university, I've also connected with the Wisconsin Office of Sustainability and Clean Energy. They are working on a climate action plan for the state of Wisconsin. But when I was connecting with them, I learned that both Pierce and St. Croix counties actually opted into Minnesota's climate action plan because we are part of the Twin Cities metropolitan area. So the Metropolitan Council of Minnesota typically covers a 7-county area. Now they're covering a 9-county area that includes Pierce and St. Croix counties and working on creating a climate action plan. They had an opportunity to select a community organization to do a project called a Community Climate Collaboration, and Allison was one of our participants in that. It was a series of 3 workshops this last winter, I believe February and March. So they came in and gave us some information around climate change and the different aspects of it, and talked to us about what are our priorities as a community. Their initial focus areas were waste, energy, and transportation. As a group, our 18 participants decided to focus in a little bit more on waste and energy. As part of that, all of those 18 participants went out and conducted community interviews, and then we got that information back to figure out where the gaps are or interest areas or the opportunities for that. So we had 18 participants, not all from Hope for Earth. We had, I think, 5 or 6 of us from Hope for Earth, but we really wanted to reach out to other organizations in River Falls. So we had a city council member, we had the superintendent of the school district, we had some River Falls business leaders and community members, we had a high school student, so very intergenerational, trying to get as many diverse perspectives as possible. During this same time, Hope for Earth Education Advocacy Committee was working on really doing some research about what are other communities doing on this topic already. So what's working well, who's adopting formal plans, who's just setting some goals, what does that look like? So we've pieced all of this together, and we did a debrief with the Met Council participants. We did an in-person debrief as well as a survey, and everything up there on the left-hand side of the screen are things that people determined were priorities that we should focus on. Those are a lot of things to focus on, so we had to narrow it down a little bit and categorize things a little bit. So in the upper right hand of the screen, you'll see our action teams. We decided to move forward with 6 action teams that coincidentally all relate or are covered by those 8 action teams that were created in 2019-2020 through the Partnering for Our Sustainable Community series at the high school. So it's interesting that in a span of 5 years, our community is actually still advocating for the same things. And we've seen that through some of the voting activities as well that Hope for Earth has done. In addition to these 6 action teams, we've also recognized that we need to have some common themes that all of the action teams are focusing on. So every action team needs to be looking at how are they engaging the community? How are they doing outreach? How are they soliciting information from the community on what our broader community wants to see? And then how are we educating the community on what next steps might look like? What policies are in place that support or do not support action related to those action teams? And how can we advocate for change at all levels, including the individual level up through whether that's city councils or townships or what that might look like? Making sure that we focus on mitigation, adaptation, and resiliency. So again, how can we reduce our contribution, as well as how can we prepare for the future we are going to experience? Individual and collective action, there's often this debate of like, oh, individual action might not matter. We need larger system change and we need policies and laws in place. It's an and situation. We each need to individually be doing things and we need to be advocating for larger system change as well. And then business and institution engagement, we need to be connecting with our businesses, our institutions, those that signed that proclamation, and others as well about how we move forward. So for the 2025 EarthFest voting activity, we picked those 6 action teams and listed them out and asked people again to identify which ones they wanted us to focus on. Since EarthFest, we ended up combining those 6 action teams into 5. We combined water protection with green spaces and biodiversity. So as I go through those 5 action teams, you'll see that those were combined. And again, these are not all the things we would like to be doing, but the types of areas that we are working on. There's also a lot of overlap between the different action teams. So as we get into the Climate Action and Resiliency Initiative, it has formally launched kind of since EarthFest this last year. We've been slowly adding people to the different action teams and moving forward. We have a structure in place, including a steering committee that I'm currently leading that consists of myself, all of the action team chairs or co-chairs, and then we have a representative from the City of River Falls, Brooks Ostendorf, who is the Conservation and Parks Manager. In theory, he's going to be overseeing a division that continues to grow and includes other positions that are working for sustainability as well, related to recreation, natural resources, and possibly a sustainability coordinator position. So he is on our overall steering committee, and hopefully we'll be bringing other city people forward as well to join those different action teams and help position us to move forward. One thing that I really want to mention is in the case of the university, it's a climate action and resiliency plan. And in the case of Hope for Earth, it's a Climate Action and Resiliency Initiative. The reason why we started transitioning our language for the Hope for Earth initiative is because our goal initially was we wanted the City of River Falls to adopt a plan. Through the Met Council workshops and other engagement activities, we recognize that we also have townships and we have the counties. And if we solely focus on one entity, we're essentially excluding several other groups or people that may want to be involved on some level. So we're trying to structure this new Climate Action and Resiliency Initiative in a way that will set organizations up for success, whether they want to bring that to their township, to the city, to the counties. Hopefully this results in climate action and resiliency plans on multiple levels, but the initiative really is about engaging the community to determine where we want to move forward, focusing initially on just getting one entity to agree. In the case of the City of River Falls, even using wording like climate change is not always received very well. So we have to work through those political processes to figure out what they may or may not support. They might not support a climate action and resiliency initiative, but through their series of plans that they did a few years ago, the comprehensive plan, the bicycle and pedestrian plan, and the outdoor recreation plan. The outdoor recreation plan in particular, we know that there's a lot of community support around green spaces and biodiversity. So if we focus in on that action team and furthering initiatives related to green spaces and biodiversity, rather than we're trying to adopt a climate action plan, we might have more success in moving that forward. So there is some strategy behind all of this and how we communicate that to the different entities. But ultimately, it really is broad to allow progress for any entity that we're working with. All right, so to get into the different action teams, there's a lot of information on these slides, and I apologize. This is all information pulled from our project charter, so I'm just going to share a little bit about each one, not covering all of this information, but just kind of high level. So our first action team is Buildings and Sustainable Development, being chaired by Mike Noreen. This one does not currently have enough people to move forward with. So we've set a minimum of 5 participants on each action team to be able to move forward, for it to be worth our time and energy, and to not burn out any 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 individuals. So currently, Mike and the rest of us are trying to recruit more people to join Buildings and Sustainable Development. And then whenever we do get enough people, they will start meeting probably monthly, and then our steering committee meets monthly, and the chairs bring that information back to the steering committee. And because there is overlap between the different action teams, that's really the role of the steering committee, so we don't end up with multiple groups reaching out to the same organizations. We can try to do that in a more strategic manner. So Buildings and Sustainable Development will work on things like promoting green construction and retrofits, equitable low-impact growth, and then supporting water efficiency and reduced runoff. So things like reducing runoff or stormwater management, that will also be addressed through the green spaces and biodiversity. So there's a lot of things, again, where there's overlap. The key actions listed for each of these are not set in stone. These are a list of ideas for the action team to do what they want with. We have kind of expectations for each action team, but really what they want to focus on is up to them and depending on the committee membership that they have. So one of the key actions that we noted for Buildings and Sustainable Development is really to work with planning commissions or housing authorities. So how can we get to some of those entities that have more control and power in sustainable buildings or lack thereof, and integrate that into some of their plans moving forward. On the energy side of things, we have Lance Hovland chairing that one, and they're really focusing kind of on 2 parts, clean and renewable energy, and then also energy efficiency. So getting out to people, educating them on different incentives. Granted, those incentives seem to be decreasing every day right now, but there are some incentives through the IRA and others that last a few more years, so trying to educate the community on what opportunities are out there for individuals and households and families, as well as businesses. And then for key actions, one of the things that they're focusing on initially is EV charging stations in River Falls. So we do not have a good infrastructure, to say the least, and they're currently connecting with some of the business leaders in particular who might benefit from having EV charging stations in proximity to Main Street to be able to bring in and help with some of that tourism and things, because people are transitioning to electric vehicles. Just this last spring, I had a faculty member reach out to me. They were chairing a search committee, and there's a faculty member that had offers from us and another UW institution, and one of their deciding factors was EV charging stations, and River Falls does not have any. So it is going to be becoming more and more of an expectation going forward that we have charging stations, and that's one of the many things that the Energy Committee will be working on. Green spaces and biodiversity. This was the very first action team to get to that minimum 5-person critical mass. I think they're at 10 or 11 people now. So again, very passionate in River Falls about our green spaces and our areas to get out and recreate. So that's being led by Tova Flygar and Matt Janquart. And again, we combined water protection in with this. Water protection, there's kind of the water conservation side on water efficiency within buildings, and then water protection, stormwater management, and runoff into the rivers and things like that. So again, overlap. One of the things that we're encouraging them to do, and kind of one of the low-hanging fruit that they've initially identified, is looking at expanding the use of rain gardens, native vegetation, and educating the community on what people could do on their properties, as well as business properties and things like that to help with preserving our green spaces. Local food systems and sustainable agriculture, so we have that being chaired by Robin Bowles, and they're going to be looking at sustainable, equitable, and resilient local food systems. So one of their key actions really is mapping out the local food system. What are our sources of food? What's local? And then trying to advocate for connecting people more with local options. One of their initiatives that they did through EarthFest was Seasonal Spotlight. I'll leave this on the back table if you want to look at it. But this year at EarthFest, they connected local growers with local restaurants to provide a seasonal spotlight. So since EarthFest, kind of as we progress through the growing season, there's been a special going around River Falls at various restaurants where local restaurants are sourcing sustainable items from local growers. So the current one that was just launched this last week was Swinging Bridge Brewing Company has a honey lavender lemonade. They're sourcing honey from Lazy Goat Studios and then lavender from the co-op. So that's something that's a product they could have had at any time, but sourcing that locally helps, again, our local farmers and those people doing that work. So the local food systems will be continuing to do that type of work. And then the last one is waste reduction and circular economy. This is actually the action team that I have the most interest in. So if we get to enough people, I may end up leading this at some point, but we currently don't have anybody signed up for this one, even though in 2024 at EarthFest, reducing single-use plastics was the #1 thing that our community advocated for. So I suspect in time we'll fill this, and whether or not I end up chairing that or I continue to chair the overall steering committee is kind of to be determined. But ultimately, this group will be looking at how can we reduce waste in our communities, how can we increase recycling rates. We do not have composting in River Falls of food waste organics or compostable containers, so is there a way to advocate for that? There is a digester that's opening in River Falls that has already opened, but they're transitioning as they accept different material, so there might be more opportunities there. We know the city of Hudson has also been looking for something like curbside organics recycling, so can we leverage enough Western Wisconsin communities to be able to get curbside organics? A lot of ifs there, but ultimately that's what this committee will be looking at, is trying to figure out how can we expand the amount of items that we're diverting from landfills, as well as reducing our overall amount of waste generated. So as we move forward, our next steps really are to continue to recruit members. You can let me know if you're interested in joining an action team. I do have a sign up on the back table if you want to sign up to join an action team. What that will do is anybody that signs up on that, you'll get an email from Hope for Earth with a link to fill out an actual interest form where you can select which action team you'd like to be a part of. That's the same process we're going to use at the September 18th event, so continuing to advocate for that. Action teams are starting to meet. 2 of the 3 that are formally formed met last week. The other one's meeting this coming Tuesday. Our steering committee meets tomorrow. So work is moving forward. Hopefully we can fill out those rest of those action teams and be able to get all 5 of them going. One of the things that's really not being addressed right now in our climate action and resiliency efforts is anything around transportation other than electrification, EV charging stations, possibly on some of the business side, trying to electrify some of our fleets. But from a broader perspective of public transportation and things, we do not have anybody starting any of that work. So we might be adding additional action teams in the future as we continue to grow this effort. Looking back at that 2019-2020 series, we are trying to bring that group back together and inviting more. So on September 18th, we're doing a Partnering for Our Sustainable Future event, a community conversation, where we'll be sharing more information on the initiative, very similar to this presentation. So fair warning that it might be a little redundant for a few of you, but it'll be a little bit more expanded. We'll share more information on each of those action teams. And then the second half of the event really is people will be able to go around and visit with the action teams. We'll have posters up where people can provide feedback. We want to solicit information on ideas people have for individual actions related to that particular action item, things that we could do as a community to advance those action teams, and then also what other organizations should we be connecting with. We know that there are other organizations doing some of this work, so making sure we connect with groups like Kinnickinnick River Land Trust for green spaces and biodiversity and some of those others. We want to map out that network so we can figure out how do we best leverage some of that work and connect all of those pieces together. So there are a few posters on the back table for this event as well. I also have a general Hope for Earth email sign up if you're interested in getting any of those emails. And although I'm really not presenting from the university today, we do send out a sustainability newsletter monthly for the university, so I have that sign up back there as well. And with that, I will open it up to questions. So, yes?
I'm part of the River Falls Township Parks Committee.
Excellent.
And so my assumption is that there will be some way that we can connect with you guys, because there are things that we need to do with the parks in terms of reducing buckthorn and other things. And have somebody on the township board that would prefer to mow all the roadsides in June when we have birds trying to nest. And so, again, that's something that we could be talking about some more.
Yeah, both very good. The Green Spaces and Biodiversity team is the one meeting on Tuesday, so I'll mention that to them as a group to get connected with as we progress through this. Thank you. Yes?
Mark, I have just a couple of comments, one for Don, because you obviously weren't paying any attention to him when he asked you to speak slowly.
That is one of my challenges, yes.
I would not say that. That was my second comment. Despite reading the delivery, that was terrific. It was concise and it was informative and it was understandable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maureen?
So going back, you said the Met Council has a water action team for, that would include Pearson St. Croix.
So the Met Council is working on a broader climate action plan that will include Pierce and St. Croix counties. So I don't know any piece of that that's focused on water. The three initiatives that they brought forward to us were energy, waste, and transportation as their primary focus areas. There wasn't much that came up related to water in that, but they are connected with groups like the Washington County Water Conservation Department or group or committee, whatever that is. So they're networking with those other organizations as well, but I don't know of a specific water-related focus on that.
Just to follow up on that, is there a timeline on that Met Council work?
The Met Council work, it's over the next, it's the foreseeable future. In Wisconsin, they wanted to have a draft of the Climate Action and Resiliency Plan out by June 1st, and now they're saying October or November. Met Council was never even that ambitious. I think it'll be probably early 2026. So the hope is that those larger climate action plans at the state level or the metropolitan area will then give us some leverage to be able to go to the townships or the councils and other things and say, here's what's happening and here are priorities that have been identified. How are we contributing to that as well? But I don't know exact timelines on that. So, yes.
So I would wonder if Met Council was covering all the bases that you guys are thinking about. You guys are thinking about basic farms.
Mm-hmm.
So have you reviewed their plan so far to see if it's good?
No, they haven't shared anything publicly available yet. While the Met Council experience was good and it opened some doors for us, it was a little lacking in terms of what we were expecting. We were expecting more information, more climate science data, and more recommendations moving forward. They essentially got funding to be able to go out and do these community climate collaborations. So Hope for Earth received compensation to be able to help facilitate these workshops, and then each of the participants received a stipend to be able to do that. And what we know this is probably as of May, we were the only group that they had connected with in Pierce or St. Croix counties at that time. We were the first group that finished the entire community climate collaboration, and they were continuing to work with other nonprofits and other agencies ongoing. They finished the last of those community climate collaborations in June and are still working on sending out final reports and things. So they haven't even, to my knowledge, they haven't taken all of that information that they've gathered from all of these different groups and started compiling that in a more publicly available report yet. We will be reviewing it when it comes out or anything is shared to be able to see what aligns or doesn't align.
So who are the people that are doing the plan? And so one of the things you could be doing is get to be a seed at writing what you want to see. Is that possible?
Are you asking at the Met Council or?
Because that is the most powerful part group to play beyond, you know.
Yeah, as of right now, we do not have anybody at that table.
Do you know if there's a possibility?
I can ask. We can certainly look into that.
Yeah, kind of, the read I got participating in that run this process to create a plan for the Twin Cities metro area. They kind of found out when they were down with Hathaways, like, oops, Pierce and St. Clair County are technically legally a part of the Twin Cities metro area. We have to include them. So we have to go out there and do something to go through this process and have that input. So I guess my takeaway from it was it's a great alliance, a great relationship to have. I wouldn't wait for them to give us our overall guidance on what to do. We might, through our connectivity, then be able to influence their broader picture, maybe.
Well,
Maybe.
yeah, I wouldn't want to wait for them. I would want to be influence them to do cover what we think should be covered.
Yeah.
The other piece of information that we're trying to track down is both Pierce and St. Croix County had the choice of going under Wisconsin or Minnesota, and they opted into the Met Council. So we're trying to figure out who those contacts are at Pierce and St. Croix County, who we can then network with as well, because they need to know what we've been doing and a part of this. So we're in the process of trying to track that down. So we do benefit from both states, and we can leverage that whichever direction we need to. But it sounds like the Wisconsin plan will be rolled out before the Met Council plan as well. So, and this will continue to evolve as we get those different pieces of information. We might learn a different area that currently isn't one of our action teams, but maybe we do need to be doing something in that area and we can expand that. So, yes.
How long has St. Croix County and Pierce County been included in that county plan? I know somebody opted in. When did that all happen? Because I think about the Met Council, I do not think about here. I don't think about Pierce County.
Right.
Yeah, are you saying technically a part of the metropolitan area?
No, I think about being included in this type of, yeah, in the consideration for the Met Council.
This happened, I would say, last October or November. So within the last 9 months.
This isn't something
Right.
that has been there for 5 years.
Right. No. But to Allison's point, we have been included in the Twin Cities metropolitan area geographically for many years.
Loosely affiliated, I understand stuff
So.
like this, but the formal recognition and plans, because to Richard's point, I think the Met Council takes care of the cities, and we might be an afterthought almost.
I agree. I think we will be, and they were just checking boxes, which still a good opportunity for us, but we'll have to compare both state options for us. So again, a lot of evolving work as we learn more from the different counties and states and options, and as we get more community feedback. There might be community members saying, you know, we really need to focus in this area, and that could change the direction of one of these action teams, or we could add a new action team. It just depends on kind of where there is interest and engagement in moving those discussions along. So.
Can I ask a funny question?
Sure.
What barriers are you incurring to roll out various initiatives? The top 2 or 3, just.
So one barrier is we just need more people to be able to do the work. So that's kind of across any organization these days. From a city perspective, the city has made some changes in recent years regarding their sustainability programming, support, staffing, and structures, and the can just kind of keeps being kicked down the road. It was the position's vacant, then we're restructuring the positions, and then they kind of announced the plan, and then they only filled one of the positions, and it's a phased approach to others. So right now, if we were to focus in on the city of River Falls, again, not to exclude the townships and things, but if we were focusing on the city of River Falls, it would be lack of support or engagement from the city to pursue sustainability initiatives. And, you know, we're very well known for our sustainability efforts. We're first in the state and now currently third in the nation for customer participation in renewable energy. And we had the large Renewable River Falls campaign a few years ago. 100% of city buildings are powered by renewable energy, but then it seems to have stopped. And again, staffing changes and other things are cited, but we really need more engagement from the city. And we're hoping we can add those people in, but somebody from the Planning Commission to be on buildings and sustainable development. Somebody that oversees the waste contract for the city that can be on the waste or the waste committee or action team. You know, there's so much we can do a lot as individuals in encouraging businesses and things, but we do need that city structure, or in some cases the townships, or again, maybe we're looking at a county-wide thing. So it's really getting support at those levels. And I don't know that we've pushed much yet. This, I would, like, we've had blips over the years, but I think this is really going to be the push. All right, well, thank you. And I'll stay around after if anybody has additional questions.
So don't forget the sign-up table. It's on your way out there. And I happen to be on that green space and biodiversity team, that big team, because I thought our organization, our land here, that was our greatest interest in those groups. All right, here are the announcements. You can see the programs coming up. There is an administration committee meeting right after this. Are there any other announcements? Ann?
Always. Black garden produce, please take it, including zucchini that got away from me. Leave it on somebody's doorstep, okay? And they're green beans in the garden, which I didn't pick them. I like green beans. They're fresh and coming on strong. And I'm still running my postcard campaign. If you weren't here last week, this is to help Wisconsin Unitarian Universalist Social Action Network, of which we are a member, and they're running this, send postcards to your legislators. You don't have to be in Wisconsin, because it's a nationwide effort right now, talking about what people support and what our legislators aren't listening to. And I have the stamps, I have addresses. All it does is require you to say, very short message like, please do this, or pay attention, sign your name, and fill out an address of a legislator. There are 5 possible ones that we all have. I have the addresses. You don't have to do 5. If you can take 5 and you know somebody else who might do a couple, I'd be happy to send these home with you. I'm supposed to be getting these out. I ordered 100 and I got 50 left. So I have some work to do.
Just to know, Ann, if you read the typed message that's on the back, I sent mine this week, but it talks about Congress, and you're sending it to a state legislator.
The information coming from Busan was send it to anybody.
Right, send it to anybody, but I just crossed out Congress.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it does say Congress, but you could, put your local, just say, hey, local representative, this is important for you as well to pay attention to. So, seeing if you can do some postings.
Any other announcements? I did neglect to mention one of the reasons that I played that patchouli music was that Bruce Hetzel, the guitarist, the wonderful guitarist, died last week. So maybe after this is all over, after we say the closing words, Jonathan, maybe you can replay that Labyrinth song for us. You can look at him. And thank you for your presence, and thank you for any monetary contributions. There's a basket out in the entryway. And closing words, our tradition here. Come up, gather hands, say the words on the wall. Pretty good, sir. Everybody's in.